Anthony Fauci's diary has now become quite the source of outrage for the right wing. We've been discussing that all this week with them shouting at him, "You're a disgrace, you're a traitor, you got people killed," when in reality he was trying to save lives. And their dear leader Trump was the one who cost a lot of lives with his response to the pandemic and hell of science. Different nuggets are coming out of this diary that's been revealed, which, by the way, we're now learning, according to RFK Jr., that the reason they were able to hand it over to Rand Paul, which caused this latest revamp 2026 COVID discussion for some reason and Fauci demonization, was that Fauci wrote a diary so that he could later have documentation of all the crazy events he was managing and maybe write a book about it. And then he, as he was leaving, sent the entire diary in an email through a government email. So then RFK Jr., one of his underlings, was able to find the entire diary sent over an email, and then they exposed it all to the public. And as I've said, there's not many bombshells, according to reasonable people. According to some in the right wing, there are huge bombshells, like Fauci was shocked by how famous he got, and that was proof that he's an egomaniac. Or he discussed the lab leak theory, and then they cut it out of context to say he knew it was leaked from a lab, which we still don't know that to be the case. When in reality, if you read the very next line, he was substantiating the natural animal to human jump theory. So if you are honest about it, there's not many bombshells, but there are interesting anecdotes, like this one about Obama, okay? The headline from Ross Story was Obama's explicitive-laden take on Trump Jr.'s intellect exposed in Fauci. And I said, oh, Obama dropping expletives. There we go.
Thanks, Obama.
Against Donald Trump Jr. I want to hear about that. And you have this coming again from Fauci's diary. He wrote, Obama reassured him, or this is from the Daily Beast reporting, Obama reassured Fauci that Trump Jr. is an effing moron before apologizing for using crude language, which is the most Obama way to insult someone ever, to go, he's an effing moron. I apologize for my language. Immediately after saying it. So again, this is supposed to stay private. This was a secret discussion between Obama and Fauci, but it's now being made public. Obama went on to say that Donald Trump was a hopeless idiot who was a pathological liar. He was very upset that none of the moderate Republicans were actually speaking out on my behalf, and were distancing themselves from all this terrible slanderous behavior against me.
What's that, Mr. Skeleton?
Oh, Pep Skeleton wants you to know that you should click the subscribe button if you appreciate what we do. Simple, free, just click it, but it helps us a lot. Back to the video. So it's a discussion that was private between Fauci and Obama, where Obama was saying, listen, don't worry too much about Donald Trump Jr. attacking you publicly, which had spawned a bunch of hostile phone calls and likely a bunch of death threats to Fauci during this time while he's trying to manage the pandemic, because the Donald Trump Jr.'s of the world and Trump himself were spreading lies about the public health officials, Fauci in particular. And so Obama was calming him, saying, hey, these people are stupid.
Fact check, true.
Which, by the way, that kept coming up in the stories about this diary, where we looked at yesterday, Tucker Carlson being like, and then Fauci in his diary called me an asshole. Ah! And then Hannity, he called me an idiot. And we're supposed to be outraged by that? Like, see, this proves Fauci was a partisan, blah, blah, blah. No, what it proves is y'all were being those things. You were getting people killed. You were lying about him. You were making him some villain for little to no reason. I understand why in his own diary he would be insulting you. It has nothing to do with politics. Just how you were handling a crisis that he was trying to manage. And then I think Obama comes out looking even better, describing Donald Trump Jr. as an effing moron. And then in Obama fashion, immediately apologizing. But that's not the only thing that we haven't talked about yet in relation to this diary. You also have Katie Miller, the wife of Stephen Miller, who has been publicly calling for Fauci to be imprisoned, being exposed for, at the time, going to Fauci for help. And the hypocrisy here of someone treating you so kindly, as the diary reveals, taking time out of trying to manage the entire country's health crisis to manage your personal health crisis. And then you turn around for clicks and call for him to be imprisoned. Katie Miller is being reported on here, Daily Beast. The passages about the Millers were initially part of the release, but quickly censored by Paul's staff. The secret diary entries reveal how Fauci calmed Katie when she tested positive for COVID while only 10 weeks pregnant with her first child, and gave her husband advice on what to do for both of their safety. Katie had anxiety, and the two remained in touch about her health for months. They texted as she traveled, be with her parents in Texas at the height of the pandemic. Fauci also called their doctor personally while being in charge of trying to save lives across America. So while he's actually managing the entire response and advising the president about what to do amid an unprecedented global pandemic, he's taking time out of his day for months to personally guide Katie through her anxiety about getting COVID while she was pregnant, and then the different bits of advice that she would need over the course of the next few months managing that. Even giving advice to Stephen Miller. And they both turn around and say he's a villain and he was doing this all to conspire against the United States to sell vaccines or something. It's just gross. It's just gross. But when I feel confused about a topic, I like to go to Nicki Minaj to have her explain what to believe. She posted this image of Anthony Fauci and wrote, "Feeding tubes will be his portion. He will lose the ability to speak, and then and only then will he feel the collective pain and long-term ramifications he caused to newborns, young children who are trying to become acclimated in society and schools, traumatized pregnant women who couldn't even have a family in the delivery rooms and visits, the elderly who died alone and afraid, young people still struggling with mental health, suicide, people turned away from hospitals at their most vulnerable moments, the trust that is now gone from innocent people toward their governments forever, billions of stolen money from hard-working taxpayers via con artists. I've been struggling to find the humor in any of this. God bless everyone who made a decide. You're stronger than you thought. God is in control." So now MAGA star Nicki Minaj is writing this fantasy about Fauci suffering at the end of his life, excruciating pain. Which, imagine writing that about somebody. Think about how much confidence you, if you were honest, you would have to have your understanding of the events justifying what you're saying. Like, if I were going to talk about how painful someone's death was going to be, I personally wouldn't do that. I would do it because I know for certain I understand to the level of an expert the subject matter. Because otherwise, what if you're wrong? Well, it's just a good faith public health official. Think about how psychotic you're going to come off. You talk about God in control. Think about what God's going to think of that. Wishing someone excruciating death. And then you think about Nicki Minaj. Do you think that she has expert status on this topic? You think she has reason to be this confident to fantasize about this? Really disturbing. And Fauci, oh my God. The other thing that I think causes this much delusion around the pandemic takeaways is that, you know how in football people often note that if let's flip it, if a ref makes a lot of good calls, no one notices, they don't care. But if a ref makes one wrong call, then that's like the only time the ref gets a lot of attention. It's that way with public health, where if they're just working away, trying to save lives, no one really notices them. But then if there's a moment of trauma, a crisis, where it just won't be perfectly just when Trump was the president, then that's the only time and the only memory that gets in about that person for some who aren't willing to be nuanced and honest. And the other aspect is that we don't know what would have happened if it weren't for the public health guidance. And so they get to pretend like if it weren't for the shutdowns, if we didn't do any masking, if we didn't have a vaccine rollout, everything would have been fine. And we can show them as much data as we want, proving that's not the case, and proving how life-saving the vaccine was, and whatever. But because we didn't live through that timeline where no precautions were taken, and the vaccine didn't go out, they can just invent a hypothetical and say that's what it would have been, but instead, all the problems were caused an attempt to prevent the disease from spread. And so they live in sort of an alternative scenario, or more than alternative, genuinely insane, like this Republican congressman.
Lastly, I couldn't go without talking to you about Dr. Anthony Fauci facing a possible contempt vote after refusing to answer a single question from Congress, not even what color of his tie was, invoking his Fifth Amendment rights about 111 times yesterday. What do you expect out of this contempt vote? Will Dr. Fauci be held accountable? Sorry, I have to say, I've words for what I witnessed yesterday.
It's crazy. I don't know if you've heard about the MT sandwich using human feces, baby parts, the vaccine. They could have used ivermectin. Maybe they're helping the big pharma get rich.
I think I know what he was trying to say there, but what he's asserting that tissue would inject the vaccine, and that injected ivermectin into the vaccine. It sounded like linguistically. I don't think he meant that we should have been injecting vaccines that were ivermectin, but he was saying we could use ivermectin, which has been said. We're trying to get back into that. I do want to quickly say it is not just at all that anything from a fetus going into your body with a vaccine. It's great to specify that was not a thing at all. And they just spread it. And this is what drives me. If CNN or the Associated Press gets one little fact wrong, the right this is why the media is so biased and so disgraceful and they're so against Trump. Get a tiny little stat wrong. But the outlets will have people say lies for large swaths of time, and they still have the gall to frame themselves as the more honest arbiters of when the scale of dishonesty coming out like that make the CNNs of the world look like the most reliable, credible outlet that's ever existed. And once again, it's a part of the plan or conservative.
To have definitive proof that Shapiro, Donald Trump, Doug Burgum all lied in order to try to indict somebody, David Hurd, who was completely innocent, claiming that he had destroyed the reflecting pool. So my question for you, Mark, is going to be, what are the impacts to somebody like Shapiro's license for moving forward with an indictment that she knew wasn't true? Before we answer that question, I want to show some footage that we have of these people claiming up and down that there was vandals